Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is Sam Borgi signing on here for the weekly Hack.com webinar. It is still January the 19th here on the East Coast of North America. We are, of course, welcoming you to our weekly webinar series, and what a week it was in the market. I've been covering cryptos in some capacity since 2013. I have never seen movements like we saw over the past 3 or 4 days. As you all know, we just underwent a major crypto market crash between Monday and Wednesday. Hundreds of billions of dollars were wiped from the market. We're going to talk about that and more on our weekly webinar. Once again, my name is Sam Borgi, Chief Editor at Hacked. Very happy to have you join us. If you have any questions throughout, please let us know. You can leave us a message here in either on the website where this webinar is shown or in the YouTube comment section, and we'll be happy to follow up with you there. You can always email me at sam@hack.com if you have any questions or comments. So the agenda for today, as it normally is on our weekly series, we want to give you a wrap-up of the week that was in the market, focusing, of course, on the global crypto sphere. We're then going to talk to you a little bit more about what we're doing at Hacked and what you can watch out for next week based on our analysis of the preceding weeks. It's been a very active start to the year for stocks, for cryptos, even for commodities. And we want to try to capture as much of that as possible in this webinar, of course, knowing that the main focus is going to be on the cryptocurrency market. So let's just get right into it. There was an absolute bloodbath in the cryptocurrency market this week. Something like $300 billion worth of value was lost between, I would say, Monday and Wednesday. At its lowest, the market hit something like $417 billion. So it fell from around $720 billion all the way down to the low 400s in a matter of about 48 hours or so. It was an astonishing thing to watch. Bitcoin essentially halved its all-time high. Ethereum fell below 1,000. Ripple, it bottomed out around 88 cents. As you all know, Ripple was trading above $3 a pop earlier this year. Ethereum's losses, looking at it on the whole, probably wasn't as bad. But overall, the market lost something like $300 billion in the span of a few days. We did see a recovery in the latter half of the week, although the gains did stall. We saw Bitcoin unable to breach above $12,000. Ethereum was trading around the 1,000, 1,050 mark. Ripple was around the $1.50, $1.55 mark at the time that this presentation is being put together, which is Friday night on the Eastern Seaboard. So huge moves in the market. We're going to talk about why this happened, or at least speculate why this happened. Overall, the market fundamentals really haven't changed that much. But of course, the mainstream media did its job this week by exposing what was a comment that was made by an official at the South Korean government that eventually spiraled into something much bigger than it actually was. And people got a little bit anxious and sold all their cryptos, apparently. So what we've seen is a tendency to buy on the dip in this kind of market. That's why cryptos have consistently gone higher over the past 13 months. We've seen these kinds of dips happen routinely. Those of us who've been familiar with this market really aren't that concerned because we've seen it before. What was interesting about this fall or this decline, this whatever you want to call it, was just how big it was, right? We went from literally from the 700 billion mark to the 400 billion mark in the span of a few days. So a bit startling, but overall, market fundamentals in the cryptocurrency space remain little changed. This chart here, I was going to show you a few charts today, but this chart here, Bitcoin, really demonstrates what happened this week. You take a look at the decline. Bitcoin falling, apparently here, according to bar chart, below $9,500 before it eventually rebounded toward the $11,600 mark. Unable to really breach the $12,000 range ever since its plunge. Overall, this was a similar pattern to what we saw in other cryptos. Obviously, the details are different, but we saw this huge plunge coming into the Wednesday session as we looked at regulatory uncertainty, or as the market reacted to regulatory uncertainty involving South Korea. And we actually talked about this last week. This isn't anything new for those of you who have been following the market. South Korea is looking for ways to rein in on speculation in the market. We saw measures enacted last month where the South Korean authorities were looking to essentially limit or ban anonymous trading. They had already put a ban on foreigners accessing domestic crypto exchanges. They were taking measures to weed out volatility and weed out speculation in the market. there was some talk. It was the Justice Minister, I believe, who said they were going to essentially ban cryptos. But the government, it was very quick in its response, saying that nothing has been decided. Cryptos aren't banned. We are simply looking at a number of measures that we can employ. A ban is one option, but it's not the only option. And we are actually still in the process of formulating a response to the crypto speculation going on in the market. Now, the Fair Trade Commission chairman, Kim Sang-yo, essentially said that a full crypto ban is unlikely. In fact, he also said that there really is no evidence that the market is speculative because we're not seeing consistency in terms of capital flow into cryptos. So in his view, the market cannot be regulated. It's impossible to regulate, or I should say it's impossible to ban, to issue an all-out ban. And we shouldn't take at face value the notion that there's speculation at play given the capital flows inside cryptocurrency. We know South Korea is a huge market now. We know that a lot of the altcoins have been extremely popular in South Korea, Ripple being one of them. Even Bitcoin is a huge proportion of daily transaction volumes, and Bitcoin do take place on the Korean exchanges. And those of you who are tuning in, maybe you're not familiar with this, but recently France and Germany have announced plans to make a case for cryptocurrency regulation at the upcoming G20 summit in March. So we'll see what that looks like in the next month or so, how the G20 nations are going to look to tackle this problem or their perceived problem. Interestingly, I mean, there was an article that we published, I wrote, I believe it was last night or the night before, on hack.com. It was a report by the St. Louis Fed. As you know, the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States has several regional Fed banks, and the St. Louis Fed is usually the most interesting one because they collect a lot of data and they present their data in a really accessible format on their website. But they had authors there who pretty much said that cryptocurrency could be a viable asset class, and it can actually be the next gold. It has a lot of the characteristics of gold. We expect it to be a formidable asset class moving forward. A very interesting paper. Go to hack.com. Type in St. Louis Fed if you missed it, and you can probably get that article. A lot of interesting discussion happening around the crypto sphere as of late. So this chart here, we like to show it on a weekly basis just to remind you of where we are in the market. You see the market cap plunging in the middle of the week before employing a gradual rebound back up to the $570 billion range. We are trading between 570 and 600 billion, although we are at the latter or at the bottom end of that range at the time that this presentation was put together. Of course, we peaked earlier this year. This is just a 5-day chart, but we peaked earlier this year at around 830 billion, and it seemed pretty clear that the crypto market was going to hit $1 trillion sooner rather than later. Of course, regulation continues to be the thorniest issue when it comes to this market. So that was cryptos. I mean, obviously, hack.com, we are involved in the broader financial markets, and we like to keep you informed on what's going on elsewhere outside of the crypto sphere. Obviously, the stock markets in the U.S. and globally continue to surge. The S&P, NASDAQ ended at record highs on Friday. The Dow also hit multiple record highs and has been hitting record highs all year long. We're gaining about over 5% so far this year in the stock market. And there's been a lot of concern about valuation. I myself personally am very concerned about valuation levels. I mean, this bull market continues to go up and up and up, even though, in my opinion, the fundamentals don't really add up. They don't really support that. Obviously, there's now a lot of hope around the pro-growth stimulus under the new administration, but overall, there's a lot of there's speculation going on anywhere. I would say the equity market also has a taste of that. Earnings continued this week. We saw lots of companies report better than expected quarterly results on the earnings front and on the revenue side. We are looking at the so-called infrastructure bump as President Donald Trump plans to unveil the blueprint very soon. We know that the State of the Union address, the annual State of the Union address in Washington, takes place later this month. Trump will be addressing infrastructure in that public comment. Volatility, as measured by the VIX, I love the VIX. It hit multi-month highs earlier this week. Very, very bizarre that the VIX would rise as stocks also rise. Something you might want to keep in mind as you look into the equity market. Just a little bit of a recap here on the hack.com and what we're doing on Hack. We have ramped up our ICO analyses over the past week or so. We wrote I believe it was 6 or 7 this week. We hit one every day, which is what we like to do. Some of the notable ones include Metronome, Arc Block, as well as Medical Chain. I myself am paying very close attention to what our members want. On Workplace, if you have a compelling ICO you want us to cover, please jot it down and I will put it down in my list. I'm focusing exclusively now on ICOs that our members want to see. So if you want to see an ICO, simply leave me a message in the Workplace group and I'll add it to my list. I'll explore it. I'll research it. The only condition is that the ICO hasn't happened yet, and give me a few days to wrap my head around it. So if we have some lead time, I'd be more than happy to cover it. These ICO reviews, they do take up quite a bit of time. We like to give you good information, be as objective as possible about what token raises could potentially be useful to your portfolio if you decide to invest in initial coin offerings. The most read articles of the week this week, we had a trade recommendation come in on Litecoin on the January the 13th. We had a beginner's guide to Tron, which was very popular. Fears of regulatory crackdown at that time had flushed $190 billion out of the crypto market. That number would continue to rise through Wednesday. Also, a crash in Ripple earlier this week we saw got a lot of reviews and a lot of views on our site. So what to watch looking forward? Some of these, I think at least 3 of them are very similar to what I had last week. Essentially, we're asking the question, what's on the horizon for South Korean regulation? We don't know yet. We don't know what direction the regulators are going to go, what kind of ban, what kind of regulation, what kind of limits they're going to put on trading. It doesn't seem like a full-out ban is going to happen. And if it does, a lot of these exchanges, or a lot of the traders at least, will simply shift their portfolios overseas. We saw that happen in China. So keep that in mind. The cryptocurrency, essentially the biggest question that I have this week is, will the rebound continue? We just hit 575 billion again on the crypto market cap. Will this continue rising, or is there going to be another leg in the correction moving forward? Earnings on Wall Street continue if you're following stocks and business news. Trump's infrastructure plan is also coming. At least the tentative outlook on what that might look like is expected at least this month. And also the ICO market continues to heat up. There's been so many listings of ICOs. The number continues to grow and grow and grow. December was the busiest month for ICOs yet. Over $1 billion was raised in the initial coin offering market last month. That covers it, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed this webinar. I hope that it was informative. As you all know, our goal is to keep you as informed as possible. If you want more information, visit us at hack.com. We publish all the time. I'm available all the time. Reach out to me if you have any questions. Thanks again for your time. Have a great weekend. We'll chat soon. Take care.